Good evening, everybody.
Hello, hello.
Welcome to Critique Corner with me, Daniel Parker.
And me, DB Fastbinder. And we've got an interesting show for you this week.
Yeah, we're doing things a little differently because it was kind of a slow news week.
It was a slow news week if you didn't care to get into DeSantis versus Disney in Florida. If,
Yes, yeah,
if you
indeed.
care to, Valiant Renegade, Legal Mindset, and Midnight's Edge all have interesting videos on the subject.
Yeah, and they will probably cover it a lot better than we would.
Especially Valiant Renegade and Legal Mindset. It being as like Legal Mindset is like a gift to YouTube when it comes to this particular fight because the guy not only is an expert, or he's not only a lawyer who practiced in Florida.
Mhm.
He is a lawyer who practiced in Florida, specifically in the purview of special districts related to Universal Studios. So it's just like wow. It's like we couldn't make a better guy to work on this.
Yeah, yeah, it's almost like he knows what he's talking about.
Yes.
And hey, Hail Creators Outlet, good to see you,
Hail
man.
hail.
Yeah. So if you're new to the channel, welcome. What we and yeah, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Hit the bell for notifications. And if you're watching on the replay, leave a comment down below.
All the usual
Um,
YouTube things.
yes, all the nice YouTube things. So what we normally do is we'll start off with what we're calling our media of the week, and this is something that one of the two of us have been consuming during the week. Although lately they've been movies. Um,
Movies are easy.
movies are easy, yeah. And then we of course then we do box office. We talk a little bit about that. Got some interesting things to talk about with that, particularly with a certain new movie about a plumber from Brooklyn.
Let's go.
Yes, and then we move into the topics for the week. And of course, we're doing a little differently with the thing of the week because I have other things. Another thing I would like to talk about to get off my chest, as it were.
Gee, Daniel, how come you get two media of the week?
Hmm.
The answer is because he was brave enough to subject himself to Mandalorian season 3.
Yes, but yeah. So for my media of the week, I found a hidden treasure in my parents' DVD collection.
Before we get started, can I just point out? So, for my own job, I recently switched positions to being more of a technical writer. So, I'm currently learning in Can I just say that that is some bad 90s Photoshop compositing there of that picture?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Like, her legs just vanish. Actually, no, they
Yeah.
don't.
Oh,
Wait, do
oh,
they
yeah,
just
they do.
I guess that's her leg there.
Yeah, but it looks. Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's definitely copy and pasted in. Yeah, like they
Yeah.
like cut them out. It's like I think what they did was they cut them out of. Took like the different scenes from the movie and just cut them out and put it in there, or publicity photos or something. I don't know. Yeah.
Those look like scenes from the movie, but still, just that
Y-
bad.
Bad, bad. Yeah, yeah. But yeah. So my thing of the week was noises off, and I have a little bit of history with this. So this is a movie that is it's actually an adaptation of a play. It's an adaptation of a play within a play.
Wait, I might have seen this ages ago.
Yeah, there are a bunch of people in this movie. I mean, of course, you just look at the people on the screen there. I mean, you got Michael Caine, you got Christopher Reeve, Carol Burnett, John Ritter, and that's Nicolette Sheridan. Nicolette Sheridan is the one in her underwear. And yeah, she spends like 90% of the movie in her underwear.
Yeah, this is the one where like they're doing the stage play and like there's like two floors on it.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, I've seen this, but I have almost no memory of it.
Yeah, I've seen it. I've seen the stage version of this.
Hmm.
Um, this was over 20 years ago on Broadway, and I, you know, of course, back then I really didn't like plays all that much, and the big reason why we went and saw it was because I didn't. This was one of the few plays that was that was going that wasn't a musical. I'm not big. I would not that big a fan of musicals. Sorry.
Oh,
But and hey Ninja Toe, good to see you. And yeah,
yep.
happy Passover, happy upcoming Easter.
Happy Good Friday Eve.
Yes. And so we saw this play, and it was just hilarious. I mean, just because there's so much going on in it, and then I think I was in and then this was probably about maybe 4 or 5 years later. I found out there was a movie version of it, and I went, oh well, I'll watch the movie version of it, and
And it never fails. Nope, sorry.
somebody always calls DB right at showtime.
Yep.
Um, but yeah, and I really love the movie too. But I think it's one of those things where you kind of have to like if you understand what's going on and you understand like the dynamic of the characters, it's a lot more fun. Um, so so in addition to the people that you see on screen, there was also who else was in it? You had Julie Haggerty, um, Mary Lou Henner, and I can't remember the name of I can't remember the guy who played the stagehand, but yeah. So so the basically the whole crux of oh, but it was directed by I didn't realize this directed by Peter Bogdanovich. And if you don't know who he is, he directed a movie in the 70s, the 60s or 70s. I think it was 70s called The Last Picture Show.
I've heard of it, but I've never seen it.
Yeah, that's a movie my parents have been on me to watch because they really like it. But anyway, so basically the whole story of the movie about the play within the play is that it's a theater troupe, and they're putting on a production of a play that's called Nothing's On. And
Okay.
what's funny is that the play that they're doing has a lot of similarities to what's going on with them.
Hmm.
um, they're trying to do this thing, and Michael Caine's directing them, and he's really struggling to get them to the opening act is them doing tech rehearsal slash dress rehearsal because they're opening the next night
Hmm.
and it's in Des Moines, Iowa, and so they're just
Truly a top tier theater town.
yes indeed. So they're so he's trying to keep them trying to keep the egos in check and everything, like so one of the things that happens is like John Ritter's character and Carol Burnett's character are in a relationship, which is a little you know little odd because there's a bit of an age gap between the two of them. And although Michael Caine and Nicolette Sheridan's characters are in a relationship too, so it kind of balances it out. Uh,
Yep.
and then you have Christopher Reeve's character. Of course, like Christopher Reeve, like he plays the um what was it? He's kind of like the dumb actor. He just kind of like, oh, he's like, he always has to have everything explained to him. Like it's like, well, why am I taking the groceries into the study? And they're like, because the plot needs you to do it. And he's like, yeah, but it doesn't make any sense. I don't know why would I do that? And so Michael Caine has to like hold his hand to through the scene and everything. And of course, like once they start going, like the egos start, they all start rubbing each other the wrong way, and they're always like, so I think Act Two is where it really gets going, and that's where you see everything behind the stage, and they're just like constantly like they're like sabotaging each other all the time, and they're doing all this stuff, and just like Nicolette Sheridan's character, like she wears contact lenses, and if you bump into her, she's like, oh no, my contacts. And the other thing too with Christopher Reeve's character is that he doesn't like violence. Like he doesn't
Mhm.
like violent things happening around him. He starts getting nosebleeds, and then he's one of those people who gets really faint when he sees blood.
So violent things happen. So violent things happen. He gets a nosebleed because the violent thing happens. He passes it. This is starting to ring some bells.
Yeah. And so like, and of course the other thing is like Michael Caine is, like I said, he's there's a bit of a love triangle between Michael Caine, Nicolette Sheridan, and then Julie Haggerty.
Mhm.
and so so you had that drama going on, and then you have like just it's just it's a wacky play, wacky play and a wacky movie, and it's kind of it's hard for me to explain it thoroughly because it's just there's so much happens in it, where and you kind of have to watch it a few times to really get like to get the sense of everything that happens. But I mean, it's a lot of fun. I highly recommend it. I like I said, I have the DVD of it that I bought years ago. You might be able to. I think it's on Amazon Prime, but you might have to rent it because I don't think it's streaming anywhere. It's kind of hard to find. That's why when I found it amongst my parents' DVD collection, I'm like, oh, I gotta get it. So
It's
yeah,
called, what was it? Like, what was it again? Lights Out,
noises off.
Noises Off. That's right.
You were close with the stage terms.
Yep. Oh, and okay, that's kind of fun. I was just looking it up on a whim, and it has one of those. It's like a New Yorker. What do you call it? A New Yorker.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
Playbill. Yeah, New Yorker cartoon. Yeah,
yeah, that's it.
yeah, yeah. And if you ever get a chance to see the stage version, I would highly recommend it too. Hopefully,
Okay.
hopefully the whoever the theater company is that's putting it on does a decent job with it.
Well, I mean, in theory, if they did a bad job of it, that could just enhance the humor.
That's true.
Double layers of irony.
Yeah.
Speaking of lots of irony,
hmm
my thing of the week, sandwiched in between Daniel's two. So on Friday, I went to go see Dungeons and Dragons: Honor Among Thieves. Um, so this movie had a bit of controversy going into it, which I think we'll cover more when we touched on it in box office analysis.
hmm
So I'm just going to talk about it as a movie if I just wandered into it. It was a lot of fun.
Oh,
It had a very Guardians of the Galaxy feeling in the sense that it's a very flippant movie for a lot of it, but it has a good heart at its core.
okay.
The basic plot is, and I apologize, we have established over years of this show that I am not great at remembering character names a lot of the times. So the basic plot line is that Chris Pine is a rogue who had been I guess what amounts to a magical cop or a member of like a magical order of do-gooders
Mm,
who kind of fell in hard times. His wife died. He's trying to take care of his half daughter, and he has this team of adventurers who help him out with that. And they do one heist that goes awry when he has a chance to get a MacGuffin that will bring his wife back to life. And he and several of the other party members end up thrown in prison. And he gets out of prison via a method that I won't spoil because it's actually pretty funny. Um, and he and he's trying to get his daughter back, basically.
okay.
And he discovers some skullduggery from one of his old friends, and it's I don't want to get into it too much on a plot level because where this movie is the most interesting is it is actually a very faithful recreation of a typical Dungeons and Dragons campaign
Uh,
in the sense that okay, so and this is something I've noticed when I've played role playing games. You'll have the one character who has the storyline that's kind of driving things at the
mm,
moment. like I could see if there was a sequel to this movie, maybe Simon. I think this guy's name is Simon. Simon over here gets to be the main driving point. But
Okay.
like different people are better at coming up with different things for the dungeon master to play off of.
Mhm.
So like Chris Pine's character is the unoptimized bard. It's like you don't play pure bard. You have to be like you have to have some wizarding levels or fighter levels or something. Nope. I'm just pure bard, pure charisma. Talk my way out of anything. I'm the man with the plan, and my backstory is what's driving the campaign.
Ah.
Okay, fine. Then you've got her here. She's great. Michelle Rodriguez is great
Mhm.
as she is a barbarian tribeswoman. I think that she would be a half orc, possibly.
Ah.
If she isn't a half orc, then she is a very buff barbarian,
Yeah.
and she's the muscle slash the Drax the Destroyer of it, and that she's often deadpan.
Ah.
And she has a bit of backstory, and the DM finds a way to weave it in.
Mhm.
Same with Simon over here. Simon has some confidence issues with being a wizard. He's not the best at it,
Yeah.
or possibly, and he has to step up. And then you have, I think it's Justice Smith over here, where she is very competent. And when the dungeon master asked her for a background, she said, yeah. So she is like a tiefling, and when the dungeon master asked her for a background, she said, "Oh, well, she's a freedom fighter who's fighting the main bad guy, and she was mistreated as a child for being a tiefling, so she likes rebels." Okay,
Mhm.
not a lot to work with, but not everybody's a role player. Like some people just want to roll dice and have fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
She would be the player who you wonder what they're getting out of it, but ultimately they're there just because they enjoy being around everybody else kind of acting.
Yeah.
You've got the level 20 character, like dungeon master self-insert, who gets to show up for a mission because the dungeon master says, crap, these guys are so badly optimized. There's no way they're going to survive this dungeon. I guess I'll throw this Mary Sue character in for one mission so that they have a chance. There are times in the movie where you can see the natural ones being rolled in front of full view of everyone over and over again.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, it kind of. Holy Ninja says this sounds like the perfect D&D movie. Yeah, the thing is, when I say you can practically hear the dungeon master, it doesn't break the fourth wall that way. It
Ah.
it. I'm saying like if you've played the game with anybody, you recognize the trends among players because like the last RPG group I was with, there are characters here who like would have been there would have been one of each of these because that makes for a balanced group overall.
Yeah.
Really, the only thing you don't have is yes, you have the min maxer here, but it doesn't count if it feels like it's the dungeon master self insert and he isn't there for the last mission.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and it's satisfying. Like the humor is a little bit Marvel, but Chris Pine is able to sell it most of the time, and the movie knows when to serious the heck up.
Mm.
And it deals with a couple of heady issues. It deals with some interesting moral quandaries in places, but it's not like a heavy movie at all. It is a light popcorn flick.
Yeah, okay.
Um, we will get into the issues surrounding the movie when we hit the box office, but I
Yes.
feel like the creators behind this have on multiple levels shot themselves in the foot and cost themselves tens of millions of dollars in the opening weekend. But we'll get
Boy.
into that because it is not what people were saying it was going in.
Ah, okay.
But we'll discuss that later. So yeah, I firmly recommend if you don't feel like if you're one of the few people who wants to go to the movies who doesn't feel like seeing Mario this weekend, this is worth your time.
Okay. Yeah.
Especially if you've ever played at a Dungeons and Dragons table.
Hmm.
But if you
Sounds
hear
cool.
anybody
Yeah.
calling this woke, no.
No.
Yeah, we will talk about that a little bit more when we get to the box office analysis. But if you
Mm.
honestly, if you see a video that says "woke Dungeons and Dragons failed," question the credibility of the person.
All right. Yeah, yeah. I remember when you said you really liked it. I kind of went, okay, well, maybe there doesn't have the problem. It isn't what they're saying it is. So,
Yeah, well, yeah, we'll talk about that in a minute.
well, okay.
But speaking of failure, Daniel, for some reason you continue to inflict the Mandalorian season 3 upon yourself.
Well, no longer after this last episode. Good
So, what
God.
finally broke you?
It finally broke me. Yeah. So yeah, I talked about the first episode, and uh, one of the things you pointed out when as I was talking about it was what I was saying was, and then that's the whole season, and then and then and then they got it's yeah, Chris Gore pointed out it's a video game plot. Yeah, and so it's just like, okay, well, the first three episodes is Mando uh, trying to get back to in the good graces of his little Mandal. Yeah, yeah. I'm gonna get into it in a second here. So get into this in a second. Um, but what happens is, so like the first three episodes, he's trying to get back into the good graces of his little Mandalorian cult, and then he gets Bo Katan's help, and as he's doing that, as he's basically rebaptizing himself in the waters of Mandalore, he gets pulled down by a one of those famous sea monsters from Star Wars, and Bo
Like the
Katan has to go down and rescue him.
Dianogas, or
No, they called it something else. It's supposedly like some mythical creature that lives in the waters of Mandalore.
okay,
Um, and Bo Katan sees it, and so when she sees it, of course she joins the cult because she's been in the water, and since being in the water she hadn't taken her helmet off, and so she's talking to the whatever her name is, the chieftain of the cult, and she said, hey, I saw this creature down there, and she kind of went, oh, that's interesting. And so then there are a lot of little episodic stuff that happens. So like, they had a whole like Land of the Lost type episode, and then and that's the episode where like Grogu does the little flips or over the kid.
that does the episode 2 Yoda flips.
Yes, yeah. And then uh of course the worst one though is like, this wasn't the worst. Actually, that one wasn't the worst one, but like the filler episode where they're on Coruscant, and the they're following the one, like the scientist with the glasses. I don't know if you remember him.
I didn't, even though I watched season 1.
Well, yeah, he was only in like a couple of scenes, but he's part of this like reintegration program that the New Republic sets up for ex Imperials, sort of like Operation Paperclip, like what we did after World War II.
But with more
Um,
explicit mind control rather than financial incentives.
Exactly. Yeah. And so there was that episode which didn't make any. It's probably going to come into it later on, but then you get the episode that dropped yesterday, and that's the image that you see right here. Uh, so uh, so Mando and Bo-Katan are tasked with uniting all of the Mandalorian tribes so they can retake Mandalore. Because the Mando finds out that uh, the air and water in Mandalore is actually fine. It's not poisoned. Nothing's poisoned there. It's just the planet's just destroyed, or the city and everything is destroyed. But anyway, so they go to this, like, I can't even remember the name of the planet that they went to. But they go to this like because they go to this planet because Bo-Katan's Mandalorian crew are all there, and they're being mercenaries, and that's where they're camped out. And so Mando and Bo-Katan meet the leaders of this planet, and that's Jack Black and Lizzo.
So I'm going to ask a question that's going to sound very silly, which just shows how I'm often disconnected from certain aspects of pop culture.
Yeah.
What is Lizzo famous for?
Singing.
Okay, because the only thing I've ever heard about her is like fat acceptance activism or something like that.
Yeah, and yeah, but yeah, she's mainly known as being a singer. Yeah, not a very good one. I've heard her music. It's not, and although she's a better singer than an actress, she's a terrible actress.
Oof. Ugh.
God awful. Yeah. Ninja Toe says so. They made Bo-Katan a complete failure of a leader. Well, what happened was since she doesn't have the dark saber, she can't be the leader. Mando has also they are Mandalorians. Yeah. So Mando has the dark saber, and that's at the end of the episode where Mando figures out some loophole where Bo-Katan can have the dark saber. It's like okay. Um,
So I'm curious about your thoughts on something.
mhm,
I've seen Chris Gore talk about it, and he says that the thing is, you can understand why it's cool and interesting to be a Jedi,
yeah.
but this series hasn't really made it clear why it's cool and interesting to be a Mandalorian. Has anything in season 3 helped with that?
No, it
Okay.
really hasn't. um, the only reason I would think it would be cool to be a Mandalorian is you get a jetpack and cool armor. But that's about it.
So basically, Boba Fett's character appeal.
Pretty much, yeah. But yeah, it's just and also like Christopher Lloyd was in this last episode too, and he's completely wasted. And
That's what I heard about it too.
yeah, it's just it was so God, like I felt like I was watching an SNL skit.
Oof.
Yeah, it felt like it was like oh this is we're gonna do a Mandalorian skit. Because because Jack Black's hosting this week, and Lizzo's the musical, is the musical guest. Like, just yeah, it's just yeah. I'm yeah. It's the whole episode was just so dumb, and it's so unnecessary, and this whole season has been unnecessary. Like, oh god, yeah. Yeah, they should have made it strictly a western. Yeah, I agree with you, Ninja Toe. Yeah, it should have just. I think the biggest mistake they made was bringing Grogu back. Should have just had Grogu like go off to train with Luke, and that be it. But of course, they couldn't do that because Disney needs to sell more of these.
Yeah, and even that bubble seems to have popped.
Yeah.
So Daniel, you say you're finally punching out.
Yeah, I'm punching out. Yeah, I'm done. I'm done with Mandalorian. Yep, that's it. So whatever remnants I had of watching anything Disney Star Wars is gone.
Oof.
Yeah,
Sorry to hear that, man.
yeah. Well,
DeLorean.
yeah.
Well, on the brighter side,
Yes.
actually, it isn't the brighter side because uh, Dungeons and Dragons, unfortunately, is an enormous bomb, arguably bigger than Shazam 2.
Yeah. Um.
So that so let's talk about the other ones first.
Yeah.
As far as other things that are coming out, we had a little bit of interesting. I'm seeing a lot more Christian movies, not only just coming in, but also placing decently well in the box office. Because we've got his only
Yeah.
son debuting at number 3, which is basically the story of Abraham and being told to sacrifice his son and the drama around that.
Ah. Okay.
I don't know how good it is, but it's interesting that it's up there.
Yeah. It did what 5.5 million in about 2,000 screens. That's
Yeah, like not huge, but
Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. It's Easter Sunday or Easter season. Yeah.
right. This of course being last week, but
Hmm.
it um, rounding out the top five. We got John Wick had a pretty good hold. 62% drop, which something that I realized on watching a Valiant Renegade thing is that part of why you see such big drops isn't necessarily because you have fewer people going to a movie. Or like, this doesn't mean 62% fewer people went to that movie. It means they probably lost a lot of their IMAX and premium large format screens
Yeah.
going week to week.
Mm.
Because Dungeons and Dragons would come in and snap up a few of those.
Yeah.
That's going to inflate some of those drops. Because a ticket sold in a regular theater is significantly less than a ticket sold in IMAX.
Right. Yeah.
But John Wick holding in there. Um, rest of the top 10, we finally don't have Avatar or Puss in Boots in the top 10.
Well.
Um, Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania made $1 million, so it's.
Ooh.
Although I think the biggest loser of the year so far in terms of budget to performance, it has to be 65, considering that
Hmm.
it's taken a month to make less than Dungeons and Dragons or Shazam made in a week,
Yeah. Yeah.
which is a shame because the world needs more movies about dinosaurs and the world needs more unique properties.
Yeah. Well. The world needs more good movies about dinosaurs.
True, true. Right. I made that monkey's paw wish mistake. I wished for more movies about dinosaurs, and we've
Yeah.
had 3 Jurassic World movies and now 65.
Yeah.
Also, yeah, it does not look like Ant-Man is likely to catch up with Puss in Boots.
Oh.
Now, to be
Ooh.
fair, we don't know how long Ant-Man is going to stay in theaters, but Puss in Boots is at 480 million. It's basically done making money.
Yeah.
Ant-Man is at 467 million. Um, but yeah, what's been 2 months since Ant-Man came out? Just about.
Wow. Yeah. That's about right. It was
It's
late
really
February.
flown.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, so that's dropping theaters. So who knows? It might be able to leg its way out over Puss in Boots, but it shouldn't be that close.
Yeah.
Especially because in that movie lost exclusivity in the theaters on like day 17 after
Ooh.
that snowstorm hurt it. Snowstorm hurt it. So
Yeah.
I think it's a good result for Puss in Boots.
Yeah. Yeah, and of course with Ant-Man and Ant-Man Quantumania, that's going to be dropping on Disney Plus pretty soon.
Yeah. Shazam is doing better than Shazam Fury of the Gods by quite a bit. It's unfortunately word of mouth has not been good on that one.
Yeah. Well, the problem is, and I think what's killed the movie is the fact that I mean James Gunn's already been brought in, and he's already said he's rebooting the franchise, and it's
Yep.
basically everything that happened in this movie is meaningless.
What they really should have said was uh, the role of the existing cast going forward uh, depends on audience reaction
Hmm.
because that might have incentivized some of the Snyder bots to go see this thing.
Yeah, yeah,
But unfortunately, it is what it is.
yeah,
Speaking of things that is what it was, but it shouldn't have been if they hadn't said stupid things.
yeah.
So, Dungeons and Dragons: Honor Among Thieves. I just if you're watching this section of the replay, I just talked about how this was a fun movie. I really enjoyed myself. This is
Hmm.
also one that they really ramped up to be big. I actually took a look at Barnes and Noble just to see. I wonder if they have a release date for the disc yet. I might like to own this. And they had a bunch of novelizations. They had prequel novelizations. They had novelizations of the movie. They had novelizations for like middle grade readers. They had novelizations for the youngest of kid readers.
Uh,
So it's like they had a lot riding on this movie.
yeah.
Unfortunately, it had a $150 million production budget versus a worldwide opening weekend of 37.5 million.
Ouch.
Um, so now I've heard some people claim that they haven't seen a lot of ads for it. I don't know if I believe that because I've been seeing a decent amount of advertising and promotions for it. Like they
Yeah.
had some sort of deal with Xbox that I keep seeing when I look at my Xbox rewards app, where like you could enter to win some sort of prize, like I don't know if it was a custom Honor Among Thieves Xbox or if it was like a PC or something,
Hmm.
but let's pull out our third host here, the calculator. Hey, calculator. Hey,
Hey.
hey. All right, so 150 million. Let's be, if we assume 100 million in advertising, we have to double that because they get roughly half of the box office. Yeah, this movie is not hitting 500 million.
No.
With Super Mario Brothers and a bunch of other summer releases on the horizon, it might be lucky to hit 200 million.
Yeah. And some of some of that can be attributed to the fact that like Dungeons and Dragons is a very niche franchise, very niche property, and it not everybody played Dungeons and Dragons, not everybody knows a whole lot about it, and and again, going referencing your review of it, like when you were going through like, oh, this character is this character is that, or whatever. There a lot of normies are going to be like, I don't care.
Right. I mean, I think you could appreciate it outside of that level. Just having that extra bit of insight was like an extra spice to the thing.
Yeah.
But you're right. Like, a lot of people don't play Dungeons and Dragons. It's hit a high level of popularity during the pandemic just
Mhm.
because it was a thing people could do over Zoom or Skype or Discord or whatever to have
Right.
some social interaction.
Right. Yeah, and you had a lot of you had like the what was the podcast
Critical Role.
Critical Role, yeah, and Stranger Things bringing
Hmm.
it back, yeah. So
Yep. But so let's talk. So those were reasons why it should have done all right.
mhm,
Let's talk about the various ways, like the various self-inflicted wounds. First
yeah,
off, the 2000s Dungeons and Dragons movie.
yeah, yeah,
Anybody who remembers that might think this is a sequel to that.
right, yeah, and yeah, and they certainly wouldn't want to see a sequel to that movie.
No. Um,
Yeah,
uh, Now, as far as the other self-inflicted wounds, we talked earlier this year how Wizards of the Coast attempted to introduce an onerous licensing thing that would see them clawing revenue away from people who were using their secondary license, and
right,
just how badly that backfired
yeah, yeah.
this week. And they keep making. I can't. I hate the word woke because nobody ever defines what it means by it. So let me define my definition of woke. It, it is it is an over concern with various demographics and politics.
I would say that's a good definition. Yeah,
Like you can have a story that has progressive messaging in it ultimately,
mhm,
because that can be satisfying. Star Wars has progressive messaging, for example, in the sense
yeah,
that it's about a band of rebels toppling an unjust government.
right, yeah,
But that doesn't mean that characters introduce themselves along with their personal pronouns or whatever.
yeah.
So, like, what has Dungeons and Dragons been doing lately? Well, they've gotten away from racial bonuses because that's racist.
Yeah, yeah. Ninja Toe says it here. Yeah, they just
Yes,
announced removing half orcs and half elves.
and that announcement came out during the movies. Not it was after the first weekend, but during the movie's release. So they keep doing things that would irritate the core fan base. And I'm going to say this slowly. So there is one species of humans these days, Homo sapiens. Somebody from North America, Europe, Asia, Africa, and Australia are all still Homo sapiens sapiens. Possibly, I forget there's a subspecies. That's right. There is a subspecies thing because I think some people define Neanderthals as Homo sapiens neanderthalis because they were close enough.
Okay.
But that's like academics. So
Mhm.
all Homo sapiens. Dungeons and Dragons is an alternate world wherein there are different subspecies of humanoid beings,
Hmm.
possibly different species, but they are fertile with each other and can produce half breeds. These half breeds have different characteristics, much the same way that a horse and a mule or a horse and a donkey produce a mule.
Hmm.
In so much as, in so much as uh, this is a role-playing game wherein it is designed to be like an alternate reality, and you get to play a role that is not yourself in some way.
Yeah.
You know, this is an acceptable break with reality because it helps give you some flavor to work with.
Yes. 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 Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, and it's just yeah, and to get away to lose that is just like okay, well, you're diluting it, you know.
Right? Like part of the fun of Dungeons and Dragons is that you can be a half elven archer, and that opens up opportunities like maybe you go to the elven village and they don't think much of you because of your heritage, or humans look at you askew.
Yeah. Hmm.
It is a chance to explore topics of racism if you want to,
Yes. Yes.
or you could ignore it and just want the racial bonuses.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. There's a lot you can do with it. Yeah. And obviously, Wizards of the Coast just doesn't get that.
that they are trying to appeal to a new audience who probably pirated a PDF of the book,
Yeah.
rather than the core fan base who has been buying modules for years and likes the game as it is. Darn it!
Yeah.
Now, that's one of the self-inflicted things. Like just the last year, they've just been destroying their relationship with the core fan base with that.
Hmm. Yeah.
Which the core fan base, that would be people who would go, "Oh, hey, new Dungeons and Dragons movie. I'm going to drag my girlfriend or my parents or my
Hmm.
what I'm gonna hey RPG group, let's go and watch that movie together opening weekend on play night instead of having play night."
Yeah, and they could still even cosplay.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, but no, so you've been slowly whittling away the goodwill of your core base. The
Mm.
second problem is you played into anti woke YouTube because the writers, who I think actually wrote a good story,
Mhm.
like I said in my review, uh, they said, "Oh yeah, we were very excited. It's like we were excited about emasculating the male characters. There is a word that you should have used: humble. Humble the
Ah.
main characters."
Oh god.
There's so I said in my review, I was putting a pin in it that this movie is not woke. Here
Yeah.
are the things that you could call woke in this movie. Christopher Pine's daughter is mixed race, not like mixed fantasy race, like his wife was black and so she's mixed race that way.
Okay.
I personally am not enough of a racist to see a mixed race child as a sign of woke, but your mileage may
Yeah.
vary.
Yeah. I don't either. Yeah.
Two, the barbarian lady is kind of a masculine character, being a kick-ass barbarian,
Yeah.
and her ex is introduced, and it is Bradley Cooper CGI'd to be a halfling,
Oh.
aka Hobbit with the serial numbers shorn, scraped off, and he is portrayed as being a house husband, basically.
Yeah. You could do a lot with that. You know.
And part of the humor of it, and this is one joke I will spoil,
Yeah.
is that she comes in and he has found another 6 foot tall barbarian lady to shack up with because he clearly has a type. And that is why that is funny juxtaposition and not woke.
Yeah. Uh,
Like she shows
yeah.
up trying to rekindle that connection, and this tall, red-headed, muscle-bound woman comes in. It's like, oh, you must be you must be Olga.
Yeah.
I'll leave you two alone for a minute.
Yeah.
So this movie is not woke, but because you use the word emasculate, you
Yeah.
uh, you managed to make yourself some nice anti-marketing there.
Yeah, yeah, and in I don't know like what the strategy there was there with that. It was it like kind of like doing a little like you say anti-marketing where like get people to go out and hate watch it, or was it just like I hate to say it was kind of like like that South Park when Cartman buys an amusement park and he's advertising like, "Yeah, I got an amusement park and you can't come in." Like,
Yeah, like I don't know who they were trying to appeal to, but they clearly didn't show up in enough numbers to make this movie financially viable.
yeah, yeah,
Now, Ninja Toe said something a bit ago. I think Dungeons and Dragons could become popular when it hits the home media market. I think this is one that's probably going to be a cult hit at some point. Uh, the-
yeah. I think so too. I mean, if it's as enjoyable, well, I mean, I trust your opinion. Um, that it's a good movie, and if it is, then yeah, it could very easily get to cult status. Yeah,
yeah, it's just that it's just unfortunate that that everything around the movie hurt the movie.
yeah.
So that's my mini rant there. So basically, I guess my takeaway is go see the movie. It isn't woke. If anybody says it is woke, I just said the two things you can really hang your hat on for the movie possibly being woke, and you sound ridiculous if you really run with those.
Yeah, yeah. And, Ninja Toe says most likely trying to get in the good graces of critics. Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, this movie did review well, both with fans who actually bothered to see it and with critics. So
Yeah,
yeah, Ninja, you'll have a good time.
yeah, yeah. I might watch it at some point. I don't know if I'll go see it in the theater. I might.
I mean, it's Paramount, so it'll probably come to Paramount Plus at some point, or they
Yeah,
might sell it to Netflix. I could see
yeah, yeah,
Netflix being interested in getting the rights to this just because yeah, they do have that Stranger Things audience who they got hooked on D&D. So
yeah, yeah. I could see them doing that. Yeah, I. Who knows? I may even buy it on whatever 4K or digital.
yeah, so it's a sad tragedy of it's kind of like John Carter of Mars, where
Hmm.
it's just was made for too much compared to what the audience was. Except I feel like the audience that would have there was an audience that would have loved this that was turned off by Wizards of the Coast being dumb for years on end, uh, and the and fuel was added to that fire by a single comment by the writers.
Yeah, yeah. It's unfortunate.
Yep.
Yeah.
Um, and before, so, yeah, some people might go, well, it's been kind of a slow season for movies anyway.
Mhm.
Nobody's really making money. Let's talk about our next topic.
Yes.
I wasn't expecting to have. Oh, by the way, quick thing.
Oh yeah.
No changes in the wash at homes. The whale is still on top of it, on the crest of its wave,
Yes. Mhm.
but nothing really too interesting to talk about here.
Yeah.
Anyways,
Right.
Super Mario Brothers. I wasn't expecting to have numbers for Super Mario Brothers, but
Yeah.
they opened on a Wednesday instead of Friday.
Which, God, I haven't seen a movie open on a Wednesday in years.
Yeah, that's usually more of a Thanksgiving thing.
Yeah, Thanksgiving, Christmas, yeah, or like Fourth of July type thing. Yeah.
So that's just really interesting. And by the way, this movie is going to basically kill any chance that Dungeons and Dragons has a second good weekend.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the Super Mario Brothers movie opened on Wednesday night, and it made more money in a single night than Shazam made its entire opening weekend.
Ooh.
Actually, let me double check my numbers here. Shazam! Fury of the Gods box office. What was your open? Yep, $1 million more than its entire opening weekend.
Oh man.
Now this is one where I wasn't entirely sure how. Like everyone seemed to think this was going to be big, but I wasn't entirely sure just because, to be honest, like I feel like I'm in a minor bubble sometimes, in the
Hmm.
sense that I saw people on Twitter being like memeing on this for months leading into it, like, "Oh, it's Chris Pratt. He doesn't sound like he's trying." Yada yada yada. Like there might be enough sentiment there to steer people away. No, you dummy. Twitter, you like you said many times before, DB. Twitter is not a real place.
Right. Yeah. Ninja Toe says, "Yeah, Nintendo's the only company that can compete with Disney." Well, it's not just Nintendo; it's Universal. Yeah.
Yeah, Universal in general is doing great, and
Hmm.
as a Comcast shareholder, I have no problems with this outcome.
Yeah.
So we don't. Neither of us have seen the movie yet. I there's a decent chance I'll end up seeing this at some point in the nearest future.
Yeah. I might. I might. I don't. Again, I don't know if I'll see it in the theater. I may wait for it to drop on streaming.
Yeah. Now, as far as this movie goes, I've there are hints that my prediction that they were girl bossing Princess Peach might be accurate.
Yeah.
It sounds like it might be like a typical Illumination movie where it's more a series of vignettes rather than a coherent plot.
Yeah, when I was watching like some of the trailers and like the previews, it was like they have like they throw Donkey Kong in there, and then they throw like doing all the pipes and everything, and then you have Mario Kart in there, and they're on the
Yeah,
rainbow course. Like it seems like they're throwing everything but the kitchen sink into this thing.
and who knows? They might even have a kitchen sink in the movie at some point. They
Yeah,
are plumbers.
yeah. Well, that's true. Yeah.
So, like I said, it's like clearly people love Nintendo. Oh, also, now this is apples to oranges because of inflation. This movie in one day made more money than the original Bob Hoskins movie made in its entire theatrical run.
Oh yeah. It's funny. I've been seeing a lot of YouTubers actually going back and revisiting that movie.
Well, it's very algorithm friendly right now
Yeah.
because Mario is a search term. But
Yeah.
that movie, man, like that, I think that movie would have been actually that movie was an example of how in the 80s and 90s there wasn't enough lore to adapt into a movie.
Yeah. Yeah. So they had to make it up on the fly, and that movie could have been really good if it hadn't been called Super Mario Brothers.
Yeah, I was just thinking the same thing because without it being called Super Mario Brothers, it's about a dystopian parallel Earth where dinosaurs evolved into people and invaded. Like
Yeah.
that's a cool concept.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. It is, but has nothing to do with Mario.
Nothing whatsoever.
And Ninja Toe says he said heard the plot is essentially a standard Mario game plot, which means very little depth to the story. Yeah.
Right. It's again like I expect it to be an entirely fine movie,
Hmm.
which actually it hearing that reaction to it. By the way, it's also benefiting from you know how we've been talking about why is this movie 3 hours long? Running time 92 minutes,
Ah,
which means that yesterday you got to have a lot of screenings.
yes. Yeah.
And as I was thinking about the reception of this movie, I, so I've been watching. I fall into weird YouTube rabbit holes sometimes. Have you ever heard of the gentleman named Clayton Christensen?
Sounds familiar.
He was a business theorist. If you've heard of disruptive innovation, he was the one who came up with that.
Okay.
He sadly passed away, but he is I've seen some speeches he gave to different companies and groups, and he has a few stories he tells over and over again. So they're not. It's not necessarily worth watching a lot of his videos, but he was a charismatic, fun guy. Um, and one of the things he came up with was he called it jobs to be done, and it was an interesting way of discussing products. And this kind of ties into what we were talking about a minute ago about woke being overly concerned with demographics, and this
Mhm.
is like the way out, in my opinion.
Ah,
So the way he tells it is McDonald, like he was working with McDonald's at one point, and McDonald's was trying to figure out how to sell more milkshakes.
yeah.
And they what they did was they did what companies usually do. They broke down, okay, what are the demographics of people who buy McDonald's milkshakes, and then they got a bunch of them into a room and said, hey, why don't you buy more McDonald's milkshakes? What can we do to improve the milkshakes? And
Mm.
the focus groups do what they always do. They give advice. They McDonald's compiled the device, changed the formula a bit, tweaked things about the milkshake, and sold almost no more milkshakes. So his group was brought in to try and help figure that out. And one of their guys went to a McDonald's and he sat in the lobby for like 9 hours and watched everybody who came in for a milkshake. And he noticed a weird thing that you wouldn't expect. Half of the milkshakes were sold before 8:30 in the morning.
Wow.
And when they found out about this, they the next morning like, they basically ambushed these people as they were leaving the shop because like what people would come in, buy just a milkshake and leave.
Hmm.
It's like, okay, why are you buying a milkshake in the first thing in the morning? Well, and he said they said, why did you hire that milkshake? Because he is like, it's less about the product and more what is the product for. Why do you buy a smartphone?
Mm.
You don't buy the smartphone for the sake of the smartphone. And talk about the demographics. I'm, I'm the fact that I'm a middle-aged white male. This is not why I bought this phone. Middle-aged white males may buy halfway decent Motorola phones because they're on a budget,
Yeah.
but that the fact that my demographics isn't why I bought that particular phone. I had a job to be done.
Right.
So like, so the way he phrased the question was, why did you hire that milkshake?
Mm.
And the answer was that a lot of these people had long commutes and they needed something that would take a long time to drink or eat just to keep them entertained on their trip.
Ah.
And since McDonald's milkshakes are so thick, it took them
Yeah.
20 minutes and it filled them up until like 10:30 in the morning or so.
Mm.
And when they compared it to other things they did, like, a banana, you finish the banana in 2 minutes and you're hungry 10 minutes later.
Ah.
Yeah, bagel with cream cheese, you have to like you have to do it while you're driving. You have to put the cream cheese on while you're driving, and if somebody calls you, you now need a third hand.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the milkshake, so they took this insight into why people bought the milkshakes because it was filling and easy,
Hmm.
and it lasted a long time, and they managed to turn that around into selling more milkshakes.
Mm.
Now I bring that up because people are talking like Ninja Toe just was about how Nintendo and Universal are the only ones that can compete with Disney because and this is where like that hearing that analysis this week gave me this point of comparison here. The Super Mario Brothers movie is what they're hiring to do the job of being a way that the family can go out and entertain themselves together.
Hmm.
That won't take too long.
Right. Yeah.
It does the job of being a movie where the parents can basically know there's not going to be any politics.
Right. Yeah, and it's and like you said, it's 92 minutes, so kids' attention spans. That's about how long they last.
Yep. And it's illumination, so it's probably full of bright colors and music and funny scenes. There's probably at least 3 fart jokes.
Yeah.
So I brought up that analysis because the, this is Universal is doing the job that is being hired to do the job that Disney would traditionally do.
Hmm.
because I feel like Universal has set things up so that Illumination is like the equivalent of a standard Disney animated feature, like a Tangled or a Chicken Little, or it's
Mhm.
like the stuff that's crowd pleasing but not necessarily challenging.
Yeah.
And if they keep it up with what they did with Puss in Boots, DreamWorks could be their Pixar, where it's like the next step up, sophisticated movies that actually have some storytelling.
Yeah. Yeah, and Ninja Toe says, and Mario is one of a handful of modern films that is marketed towards family-friendly audiences. Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny how that works.
Mhm.
Whereas, and it's just funny to me how politics, even the whiff of politics, I've like analogy I've heard of it is like somebody hates eating onions and they can taste when there's like any onions in that hamburger,
Yeah.
no matter what other spices you put with it. Like, even politics, I agree with, are tiresome in movies.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah, I just yeah I go to movies as an escape, not a not
Right.
to you know
That's the job to be done.
yeah
But so I was skeptical about this movie being $1 billion one. 30 million opening
yeah
in the middle of the week.
hmm yeah
I suspect that Wednesday releases partially because of Easter coming up and them not wanting to get hammered by it.
yeah probably yeah that makes sense yeah
So that of course means that mathematically this is going to be hard to compare to other movies, but you don't make money by being easy to compare. You make money by making money.
exactly yeah
So we'll have more to report next week.
yes
Now we are running a little bit long. I guess having a third thing of the week will do that.
yeah sorry about that
No, no, that's part of it.
yeah
So let's get into our look ahead, because quite often we're backwards oriented because we're talking about the box office that was, old movies that we watched,
yeah
and just that sort of thing. So we were thinking about it, and we decided it would be fun to look ahead for once and just figure out, okay, what are we looking forward to in the next couple of months? Because it's easy to crap on things, but what's actually going to get us into theaters?
yes
So, Daniel, we'll go through yours first.
all right
So no particular order.
all right so yeah Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1 this is the seventh movie in the franchise. Yeah, yeah. So I think they did 7 and 8 back to back, and I think they're going to be done with it because I mean Tom Cruise isn't getting any younger,
Despite all appearances.
despite all appearances. Yeah, but I mean I saw the trailer for it. It looks it looks like your standard Mission Impossible movie, at least from I would say probably Mission Impossible 4 on, because that's where
Was that Rogue Nation? No,
no that was Ghost Protocol.
Ghost Protocol. I think
Yeah.
Ghost Protocol is the one I actually saw in theaters back in the day.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's the one. That's the one where he's climbing up the side of the building.
Is that the one where they had like the parking lot that like spun around?
Yes, yeah.
Okay,
That's the
yeah,
that's the climax of the movie. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Uh, but yeah, I mean, I mean, they're they've been pretty consistent. I would say as far as like the quality and the storytelling and everything. I mean, it looks like a your good old fashioned spy action movie. So
Now
and
Ninja Toe says,
yeah, Ninja Toe. Wait, 8 films? That's the perfect number to change actors and be the same character. Bond has been in. Yeah, I don't see Tom Cruise wanting any other actor to play Ethan
no,
Hunt.
and for that matter, um, who would be able to match his physicality? Like he's the American Jackie Chan at this point, mostly in these movies.
Yeah, that's true. Although I think Ninja Toe might have been a little sarcastic.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, it's coming out July 14th, or yeah, 14th. So
Yep.
it should be good to see. And then this one, I'm a little probably more wishy washy, um, because like Transformers in live action has always been very hit and miss. I would say mostly miss.
Yeah.
Um, I'll say this: I enjoyed the first Michael Bay Transformers movie.
Same.
Um, the sequels not so much.
The only sequel I've seen is Bumblebee, which I think might have been a wise choice.
Yeah, but I enjoyed Bumblebee. Bumblebee
Yeah.
was good. And I think that was because you only had like three Transformers in it as the main characters. You had Bumblebee
Yes.
and then the two Decepticons that were hunting him.
Where this
Um,
one seems like it's a bit bloated.
yeah, this one might be a little. It might be a little bloated because not only do you have all of the Gen One Transformers, but you're also going to have the Beasts from Beast Wars. And Nicho says, I'm praying for this to be good, but there have been a lot of dumb decisions.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I think the other problem too is that with the Transformers movies is they tend to focus on too much on the human characters and not enough on the Transformers, and that could be budgetary reasons, because
Right.
CGI costs a lot of money.
Geez, it's only there was something called animation where you could just make an animated movie and portray anything you felt like.
Yeah, yeah.
Sadly, such things are the realm of madness.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, from the trailers that I've seen, it looks like it could be good. They're bringing in some different, some newer Autobots. I think it looks like Mirage is going to be the main Transformer character in this movie.
Which is a
So
real shift from it being Bumblebee all the time.
yeah, yeah. So I mean, it could be good. I'll just, I guess, wait and see when yeah, fingers crossed. Wait and see what happens with it.
Yep.
Yeah,
And then we had one that is likely to get us out to theaters together. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3.
yeah. This is probably this. I would say this is the only Marvel movie coming out that I'm even the least bit interested in. Um, because I mean, it's obviously it's the Guardians of the Galaxy. This is, I think this is the last Guardians movie. I mean,
Mhm.
of course, James Gunn's, his swan song.
He's heading
Um,
over to DC while the
he
getting's
said,
good.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And so, I mean, the trailer looked okay. Of course, again, it'd be interesting to see what they'll do with Gamora in terms of like her relationship with Peter and everything. Because of course, this is a different Gamora than
Yeah, and actually I can't really speak on it because I haven't watched the Guardians holiday special yet.
Yeah, yeah. So the Guardian, yes. Well, the Guardians Holiday Special. I think the only things you need to know from that are that they're living in nowhere. They rebuilt nowhere, and
Mhm.
Peter, Quill, and Mantis are actually half brother and sister.
Oh,
Yeah,
makes all
yeah,
that
because
that makes all the shipping people do with them awkward.
yeah, yeah. Apparently, Ego, Kurt Russell in the second movie is her dad. So.
Huh. So I guess that opens up a lot of questions. Like, was he not aware that Mantis was his daughter? Was he a dirty sexist who didn't want to share his planet powers with a girl? Did he
Yeah,
decide that
yeah.
she was too ditzy?
Probably. Yeah, I don't know.
Did the
Yeah,
powers not? Did she not have the? I guess he did talk about how a lot of the children couldn't handle his power. I guess she was one of those. That's
yeah. She survived. He didn't, dump the killer and dump the body. That was so weird. That was so
yeah,
disturbing that in that movie.
yeah. Well,
Uh,
that's the real Chris Gunn leaking out through the Disney. censorship.
Oh yeah, yeah. But yeah, I mean, I may even drag my parents out to go see this movie because they like the Guardians of the Galaxy movies. So
Yeah, yeah. The Gamora question is the only thing that really has me questioning whether or how I want to see this, because I was actually one of the people who really liked Guardians 2 just because I appreciated what they did with Yondu and like the
hmm
theme. God, I sound like such a jerk. Like I appreciated the themes of the movie, but no, like they did actually tie things together in a good way.
yeah, 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 and it just says probably the latter. He was an a hole. Yeah,
Yeah. Um, Now we shared one that we're probably going to go out there and see in theaters, so you
yeah,
can look forward to that for a thing of the week at some point.
yes.
Um, Now where we diverge is I am actually kind of likely to see the Barbie movie because my sister wants to see it, and that would be a fun way for us to spend some time together. That let's use that analysis from before. I would hire Barbie to do the job of entertaining us and giving us something to talk about because it seems like a
Yeah.
light, fun movie.
Yeah, it could very well be that.
He said neutrally.
I said neutrally. Yeah, I really don't. Yeah, I'm not. I confess I'm not the least bit interested.
Did you have a sister growing up?
I did not. No, I had a
Okay,
brother.
that would explain why you have like no attachment whatsoever to Barbie.
Yeah.
uh, like I had like kind of the same way that my sister grew up with a little bit of Marvel in her life, or Star
Mhm,
Wars in her life. I
yeah.
grew up with a little bit of Barbie.
Okay. It's Ninja Toe. You and Genghis are interested in this movie. It looks like cringe.
Well, yeah, but it seems like it's fun cringe.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well,
and then I'm actually fairly likely to go see Blue Beetle
mm,
because while it might lead to nowhere, guess what? Blue Beetle is the type of movie where it's totally fine because it seems like it's a one and done.
yeah. I mean, yeah, it could be. Yeah, I was a little interested in seeing it. Although, like, I guess I was kind of interested in how they were going to have his relationship with the Scarab. Like, if it was going to be like in Young Justice, where he was always talking to him and influencing his decisions, and
Good question. I'll also say that the base premise of the Jaime Reyes Blue Beetle is one that lends itself to a single movie, since depending on how they adapt it, the whole idea there was it was aliens who would subtly invade planets and just overtake them by domesticating them, basically.
Mm,
Like breed the violence out of them, do additives to their food, show up with a piece, and come in peace and slowly conquer.
yeah, yeah, mm,
But we'll see how they do it. But this seems interesting. Um,
yeah.
Now, Ninja. Let's see. I had a thought there. I lost it. Oh well.
Well,
So I think we were originally talking about doing some trailer reactions, but I think at this point we're over time as it is.
yeah, yeah.
But let's just run through these because we have because you have you seen all these trailers?
Yes, I have.
Okay, so let's run through these. Asteroid City. I don't know that I'm interested in seeing it, but it is interesting how you can just immediately tell what's his name?
Wes Anderson.
Thank you. You could just immediately tell a Wes Anderson movie. There's something about the way he frames shots and directs people
Yeah,
where you start watching the trailers like, is this a Wes Anderson movie? Yes, yes, it was.
yeah. Yeah, it's he has a very unique visual style, and he gets very interesting performances out of the actors.
Yeah, I'd almost call like everybody always seems weirdly stilted and disconnected. I've
Yeah,
thought of it before as autistic filmmaking,
yeah,
where it's like you don't like nobody quite has the emotions you'd expect from characters,
yeah,
but it's interesting.
yeah. It's the kind of movie that people in my former hometown of Austin, Texas, would eat up.
Oh, I remember what I was saying. Calm down about the one character in the movie calling Batman a fascist.
Uh,
It, it is not worth freaking out over because in universe, well, actually, first off, it's Zack Snyder Batman. Guess what? Dude was a fascist.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's true. Yeah, he does come across as being very punishery.
Yes. Now, did he get better? Yes. Guess what? If you have a bad reputation in the public mind, just because you factually change your ways doesn't mean people are going to get over that impression of you.
Yeah, yeah, and he was branding people too. So
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So I have no problem with that characterization of
Okay.
what they call Batman there. All right.
All right.
Spider Verse, trans flag, BLM pin. Moving on.
Moving on. Teenager living in New York City.
Well, you mean to tell me that a college, a high school age student living in New York City might have popular liberal opinions?
What?
that, that actually seems authentic.
Yeah.
Uh, my bigger problem with the movie is that there's a lot of visual noise in a lot of the scenes where you just have I think there's too many Spider-Men and it's too like abstract what the stakes are.
Yeah, I'm gonna say this too. I'm really getting sick of the Spider-Man meme with this different Spider-Man pointing at each other.
I've
Can we
managed to avoid that recently, so
just can we stop with that, please? It's getting old.
yes, they've watered down what Spider-Man is so much.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, yeah. It was cute. It was cute seeing Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield and Tom Holland.
Yes,
You know, like, but okay, just
stop it.
stop.
Also, the only thing that might get me to theaters to see this is if Japanese Spider-Man is actually in it and has a prominent role.
Yeah.
The emissary of hell himself. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. Blue Beetle, I'm already basically sold.
Yeah,
Daniel Lesso.
yeah. It could. I mean, it could be. It could be good, and I mean, you know, I don't know.
Yep.
I'm kind of on the fence. Yeah.
Secret Invasion. Disney Plus show? No, thank you.
No.
I don't care if you got Samuel L. Jackson. You haven't made a Disney Plus show that I've watched and didn't immediately regret watching.
Yeah. Same here.
I remember getting drive-by cringe just trying to look up the Kang scenes from Loki
Oh yeah. Oof.
on
Yeah.
Disney Plus. Like every scene was like, wow, this looks somehow. How does this look cheap when I know it was objectively an expensive TV show? That's why I had that clip I looked up to watch his performance.
Yeah. Yeah.
By the way, no update on his legal problems, so we'll see.
Yeah. Yeah.
Barbie looks fun.
Looks fun.
Light, fluffy entertainment, which is all we need from it. We're way better off than back when they were going to have Amy Schumer be Barbie.
What?
That was actually the original premise for this rendition of the Barbie movie. It was about like she was a Barbie who was kind of past her prime, and she was being told to shape up, and it was Amy Schumer as Barbie, and there's there was videos on it back in the day. Thankfully, they put in Margot Robbie instead.
Yeah. Yeah. No. That would have been horrible.
That would have been a Ghostbusters 2016 grade cringe tornado.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So on the one hand, we'll get a better movie out of it. On the other hand, could have gotten Jeremy from the Quartering another shed, just like Brie Larson did.
Yeah. Ah, man. Yeah.
But
I forgot about that. Yeah, that movie. The movie.
but part of why we ended up doing this was I was thinking about it, and I said, we're often very negative about what's coming out. Let's let's say some good things.
Yeah.
Let's talk about what are we actually interested in seeing, just to like put out there. Maybe we're wrong. Maybe Guardians 3 will be a complete trash fire. Maybe Blue Beetle will be awful.
Or
But
it could, or yeah.
it's kind of like if I had just had certain YouTubers to go by, I would have said, "Ha, that woke Dungeons and Dragons movie crashed and burned."
Yeah. Yeah,
It was not.
yeah, it was yeah, and I will say one thing with Blue Beetle is that the costume looks really good.
Yes, it does. That
Yeah,
it has some nice special effects.
yeah, yeah. So I mean, yeah, that movie that's coming out in August.
Yes, which is not the only movie I can think of that outperformed in August in recent memory was Guardians of the Galaxy 1.
Yeah, yeah, and of course, and it'll be. I think Blue Beetle will do better than the Ninja Turtles movie.
I think it'll do better than Shazam too, just because it'll be something new.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, okay, you might have talked me into going to go see it.
Oh, well, dang, it makes me
Had
wish
so
I
fun with
owned some Warner Brothers stock too.
that. Yeah.
All right. Well, I think we managed to turn a sow's purse of a week into a silkier of a show because we ended up with more to talk about than we anticipated.
Yes, yeah. We got a good show out of this. So yeah, thank you everybody for tuning in. We appreciate it as always. I will reiterate, hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't already subscribed, hit the bell for notifications. If you're watching us on any of the replays, leave a comment down below, and we will see you all next week. Good night,
Listen, thank
everybody.
you for joining us.